Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2017 Ford Fusion Sport. Up front is a 2.7 liter twin turbo V6, and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this Ford Fusion Sport for two reasons. First of all, Ford no longer produces the Fusion. As a matter of fact, here in the States, they don't even produce a sedan. So we're going to be talking about how, in hindsight, we've been several years removed from any Ford sedan production here in the States. We'll talk about how that has affected Ford, how that has changed. But the second reason is the fact that this car is a little bit of a sleeper. It's all-wheel drive, it has a turbo V6, and you might not suspect how much power it makes. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that turbo V6 under the hood. It's the EcoBoost 2.7 that is actually pulled from the base model of the F-150. So if it can carry around that giant lug of an automobile, it must be pretty decent here in the Fusion. It makes 325 horsepower, and at the time, it was the most powerful midsize sedan in the segment, and the first to crack the 300 horsepower mark. That is pretty special. Like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed automatic transmission. I haven't had any complaints or issues with it. These don't suffer nearly as bad as the Ford Focuses of the same era. The Ford Focuses, or whatever the plural would be, the Ford Foci, had awful transmission issues during the 2010s. The Fusion was able to escape that with its 6-speed, and not only that, this 6-speed automatic is actually beefed up over the other 6-speed automatics offered in other Fusions because of that added power. Last but not least, making this drivetrain extra special is the all-wheel drive. That I definitely was not expecting out of the Ford Fusion, as well as this does have active dampers, so this is properly set up to handle that 325. How does it feel to drive the Ford Fusion Sport? Well, around town, through the neighborhoods, it drives like any normal car. It's not really anything spectacular or interesting in that regard. However, when you do want to put your foot down and have some fun, it definitely has the power to deliver. All right, in sport mode. It doesn't make you upchuck your lunch or lose your train of thought, but the fact that it moves so swiftly and so effortlessly for a Ford Fusion just doesn't make sense. I've never associated the Ford Fusion with any type of sport or agility, but this is the ringer. This is something special. It thinks outside the box and definitely thinks outside the gas pedal. That is fun. That is more fun than it should be. And more fun than it has any right to be. That's nice. Visibility is good. Ride quality is okay, although we do have those active dampers that will change and adapt, but it's a nice sedan experience, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the video. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a mix of physical and digital gauges. Off to the left, I have a digital screen. This is displaying my fuel, coolant temperature, and tachometer, but I could also change this around to show several different things if I want to customize it my way. In the center, this is our physical gauge for the speedometer and gear selection, and off to the right we have another adaptable screen that you can change and customize. On the steering wheel on the left we have our selectors for that left gauge cluster screen, as well as our cruise control, and off to the right we have our selectors for the right gauge cluster screen, skip track, volume, and voice commands. We also do have paddle shifters around the back for the Fusion Sport. Off to the left, we have a climate control vent, headlight switch, fog light, and gauge dimmer switch. And moving on to the door, we have 2 levels of memory seats, lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving into the center, we do have 2 climate control vents along with the hazard switch, and then we have our infotainment system. Couple interesting things in here. We do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Very, very nice to see these these options, especially here in 2017. We have ambient lighting control. Very, very nice to see that. We also do have a backup camera. This is the final year before backup cameras were required, so it was still a luxury at this point, so it's nice to get that. Down below, we do have our CD player. We have our volume, seek, and tune buttons, as well as our climate controls mixed in with the radio controls. So kind of a lot going on here, but we do have heated and cooled seats, as well as we get dual zone climate for the Fusion. Down below, we do have a 12-volt outlet, as well as a USB-A, a little cubby, and moving up to the center console, we get the rotary dial shifter, power parking brake, another little cubby, and cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Ford Fusion Sport from 2017. However, unfortunately, it fails the big friggin' bottle test. Then we do have the center console and the seats. The seats are a mix of leather and cloth, and they are this lighter gray, which I actually like as contrast to the rest of the black interior. And as I mentioned, they are heated, cooled, power, and memory. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2017 Ford Fusion Sport, and a couple of things to note. Knee room good, headroom a little bit less so. I'm coming pretty close to the ceiling. I'm 5'11", not a small guy, and I'm pretty close to the top. So if you're over 6 foot, you might struggle getting into the back of the Ford Fusion. Other than that, I do have climate vents back here. Very nice to see in a sedan. I also have an AC 110 outlet, as well as a 12-volt outlet. Tons of options back here for power, as well as we do have 2 fold-down cup holders. The light gray seats carry on back here. I really like that touch. Again, it adds just a little bit more contrast to the interior. Would have loved to have seen tan seats or red seats or something of the sort, but I'll take this slight pop of contrast where I can get it. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Ford Fusion Sport, button right here, and we have our trunk. Not any crazy space. American sedans were usually known for their crazy big trunks. The Fusion doesn't really have that, but there was the larger Taurus available at the time. It is pretty deep, just not super wide. So there it is. That is the trunk of the Sport Ford Fusion, in case you were ever curious. Now we got to talk about the looks, and I really like the look of the Ford Fusion for 2 reasons. First of all, I think it's handsome. The owner, Bob, has kept this in immaculate shape over the last almost decade and 120,000 miles. It's a really well-kept example, and I love seeing that. But the other thing is that I think it's aged really well. I think if Ford put this out today, maybe I would say, it looks a little dated, but not as dated as it actually is. So it has aged very, very gracefully. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a Ford Fusion Sport from 2017? Well, I like this car a lot. I don't think that that's any mystery, and there's no mystery as to why I like it. It's a 325 horsepower all-wheel drive turbo V6 sedan. I mean, words like that is why I've praised Saabs in the past and had so much fun with those vehicles. I have praised so many vehicles for having that combo, and the Ford Fusion is honestly no different. It's also held up well over 120,000 miles, and this car is genuinely a sleeper. Although it makes 40 less horsepower than the Taurus SHO, it's also 650 pounds lighter than the Taurus SHO. This is basically a baby show, and a vehicle that not many people know about. Not many people seek out a Fusion Sport when they want something sporty, fast, and fun. But honestly, put this on your short list. It's a good one. And honestly, they can be had for not that expensive. But the other thing, the other final thought, the overarching, overbearing final thought of this video is that this is what Ford took away from us. Ford no longer offers a sedan. In the US, they killed them, I believe, in 2019, 2020. Globally, they lasted a little bit longer. This overseas is known as the Ford Mondeo. If you're watching from over there, hello. Ford Mondeo. That's what this thing is. This car is great. And now being far removed from the era of which these were sold, it makes me miss it even more. I don't feel like a modern SUV or modern CUV, like the Escape, like the Bronco Sport, like the Edge. I don't feel like those vehicles fill the gap that the Fusion was filling. There's something dignified about this. There's something just proper about a sedan that can't be captured by an SUV. Now, personally, I think SUVs have a very important role to play. I think for a lot of people, SUVs work really well. I'm thinking of the Mazda CX-5, one of my favorite vehicles. I'm thinking of the Tahoes, and I'm thinking of the Kia Sorentos and whatnot. I think SUVs have a place. I'm not waging a war on SUVs, but this captures something that those aren't able to, and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's not just the ride height of the vehicle, it's the body lines, it's the functionality, it's the prestige that comes with the sedan that no SUV seems to really capture. And so at the end of the day, this is what they took from us. This is what left the market, something special, something unique, and something very fun. Now, there is a good reason why this didn't sell all that well. These were expensive. As you saw at the beginning of the video, the original MSRP was just a touch over $40,000. Now, I'll put the adjusted for inflation price up on the screen. I'm sure by the time this video comes out, that'll be even more money. Adjusted for inflation, this is a nearly $50,000 sedan. That doesn't really make sense. And so they killed it because not many people were buying sedans anymore. But it's not for lack of trying. It's not because of our interest. They got out of our reach. So here it is, the Ford Fusion Sport. What an amazing, fantastic automobile that we don't get anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Bob for letting me borrow his Ford Fusion Sport for today's video. Bob has been wonderful to work with, very friendly, very down to earth, and very knowledgeable. He is a Ford Fusion enthusiast, and there's good reason why. So thank you to Bob for supplying the vehicle in today's video. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.